Thank you, Warden. As we like to say here in Harambe, Twende, which is Swahili for let's go. So Jumbo everyone, my name is Jacob and I will be your safari driver here today on the Harambe Wildlife Reserve. Just a few safety reminders before we get started. Please keep your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the vehicle at all times and please remain seated. Now we will be beginning our safari in the Little Ituri Forest. Now the forest is home to some rather skittish animals. These animals much prefer to use camouflage to evade predators rather than running away. This make them a little bit hard for us to spot, so you're going to want to keep your eyes open. I do see an okapi on the right hand side. The okapi is known as the ghost of the forest. They were actually thought to be a myth before 1901 when the first picture was taken of one. Now some people think that the okapi is related to zebras due to the black and white stripes on their rear legs. But that's not true. They're not related to zebras at all. They are in fact the only known relative of the giraffe. You can tell based on the shape of their head as well as the length of their tongue, with giraffes having an 18-inch long tongue and okapis having a 22-inch one, on average at least. Now we are coming down by the watering hole here, and I can see a black rhino on the left-hand side over by the wall to live on their own. Like all rhinos, they have those impressive horns on their faces, which are made of keratin, the same material as our hair and fingernails. Despite some cultures believing that they have medical properties, this is not true, or else biting your fingernails would be actually healthy. Now on the right-hand side at the top of the hill, I can see a bongo. That's the reddish one with horns. And to the right here, we have some greater kudu. Greater kudu are the tallest forest antelope, while the bongos are the heaviest. But all the animals there were female. Bongo females have horns just like the males, but that rust red color for their fur is an indicator that they are female. While the males will have a dark brown, almost black fur. The kudu, on the other hand, will have the same color fur, but the males will have quite impressive horns that we did not see on the females. You can actually see what they would look like on the animal spawning guide above your heads on the far left and far right. But now, my friends, we are approaching the Safi River as we make our way deeper into the forest. The river is home to some more aquatic animals, so you're going to want to keep your eyes on the water. Especially keep your eyes open for shadows that might be just under the surface. This is usually an animal, and it's sometimes hard to tell. But I can see some Nile hippos on the right-hand side.
Oh my gosh.
Now, Nile hippos can hold their breath for up to 8 minutes, including while they are sleeping. Now, they obviously can't sleep a full night in one 8-minute period, so they will be able to jump to the surface to breathe without waking up. Now on the right-hand side are pink-backed pelicans, named because their backs will blush pink during mating season. They've also been known to return to the same nest year after year in order to reuse it. Now I want to talk a little bit more about hippos, because they are quite interesting. They prefer to walk along the bottom of rivers rather than simply swim in them. They can swim, they just don't really like to because it's more energy efficient to just walk on the bottom. Now they will have to come to the surface in order to eat, and when doing so they will produce a chemical known as blood sweat. But don't worry, it's not actually blood or sweat. It's simply a red-colored oil. This oil acts as a sunscreen and disinfectant, but it does come out of their skin, which is where it gets its name from. Now on the left-hand side you'll see some Nile crocodiles. I'll talk a bit more about them after we cross this bridge. Now, Nile crocodiles are some of the largest reptiles in the world. They're known for that incredibly strong bite, which is created by many, many muscles with one job: to close that mouth as hard and as fast as possible, and then keep it closed. Now, they also have something called dermal pressure receptors. These are pits in their skin which will be full of nerves. These nerves can detect very small pressure changes in the water, and based on this information, the crocodile can know if there's an object nearby. This will allow them to navigate dark and murky water where they cannot see because their eyes are covered. Now on the right hand side there is a baobab tree. Now the baobab tree is sometimes known as the upside down tree because it goes leafless for 9 months out of the year in order to conserve water. As you can see, this makes it look like their roots are sticking up in the air, giving them that nickname. But now in a moment we're about to enter the African savannah, which is home to some of my personal favorite animals. Now I am hoping we get to see at least a few of them because I would absolutely love to show you just what makes them so incredibly special. But as we come down the hill here on the left-hand side, you'll get a wonderful view out over the savannah, and especially that short grass. But that grass being short is a little odd because no one's mowing the lawn out here. I would also like to call your attention to the Maasai giraffes on the right-hand side. Now you can tell they're Maasai giraffes instead of another type of giraffe because their spots are a little bit rough around the edges. Which is very, very impressive, but I find it more impressive that they only sleep around 30 minutes a day. They'll sleep a couple minutes here and a couple minutes there, totaling to around 30 minutes for every 24-hour period. It's a sleep schedule I really wish I could use. Now on the left-hand side, over in that cave, you can see some African painted dogs. African painted dogs are some of the most successful hunters onto the savannah due to their pack hunting tactics. It looked like somebody splashed paint on them almost at random. Now while the giraffes might sleep 30 minutes a day, they sleep at weird times, similar to these animals on the left. The sable antelope. Now the sable antelope is the emblem species of the reserve. You'll see their imagery on all of our signs. Those curved horns of theirs are used to spar with each other for dominance as well as fend off predators. But both them and the African painted dogs are crepuscular. So they are active at dawn and dusk to get the best of both worlds, the light from the sun without having to deal with those extreme temperatures. Now on the left-hand side, there are some Hartman's Mountain zebras, and I can see a couple of babies out there as well. Now the Hartman's Mountain zebra, like all zebras, has those iconic black and white stripes. The black and white stripes are unique to the individual, and no two zebras will have identical stripes, allowing it to act like a fingerprint. But that's true of all zebras. What's unique about the Hartman's Mountain zebra? Well, it's their pointed hooves. Those pointed hooves give them better purchase on rocky terrain, hence the name. Now I'm going to point out those wildebeest. They'll be on the right this time. You can see them through the bushes a little bit. Wildebeest is an antelope species that will gather in herds of 1.5 million or more for migrations that will travel over 1,000 miles. These migrations are some of the largest on the planet. Now I'd also like to point out those animals at the top of the hill. They are a very large antelope. In fact, they are the largest species of antelope. That is the eland. Now, the elands often have overlapping territories which could lead to disputes between groups, except they have a very unique adaptation. When they walk, the tendons of their knees slip over the bones, creating a very distinctive clicking noise which alerts other elands of their presence. This allows groups that technically have different overlapping territories to avoid each other and avoid conflict. Now on the right you'll see those small antelope out there. Those are springbok. Springbok get their name from their ability to spring 6 feet in the air and 13 feet forward at the same time. Now they can do this repeatedly in an activity known as pronking, where they'll bring their legs together and arch their backs. And this can have them reaching speeds of around 50 miles an hour, making them one of the fastest land animals on the planet. Now this also acts as a warning signal to other nearby animals that there could be a predator nearby. Now you can see those wildebeest again, but also those Ankole cattle out there. The Ankole cattle are those cows with the very large horns. Those horns are actually hollow with a honeycomb structure on the inside, which allows blood to flow through them. Now I want to head this way because I'm seeing these knocked over trees, which usually means there's a pretty big animal nearby. Now I'm really hoping there is because I think that's pretty cool, and I would like to see one. And if I would like to see it, I would also like to show it to all of you. I'm not seeing anything right away, but I do now see some elephants on the right-hand side. Those look like African elephants to me. You can tell because of the shape of their ears, which looks like the continent of Africa. Now those ears will also flap occasionally to cool them off because they act similar to the horns of the Ankole cattle. Oh man. They'll have blood flowing through them, so as they flap them, it cools off that blood, and thus cools the entire elephant. Now also pay attention to how those trunks move. They actually have more muscles in there than your entire body. Now, I was going to take that road, but it's closed and appears to not exist anymore, so we're going to have to take this detour. Now, there is a rather old bridge here, but don't worry, it was repaired recently, so I guarantee it is 100% safe to cross. Here we go. You might get another view of those elephants on the right-hand side, but I make no guarantees. Like I said, perfectly safe. Now, I did neglect to mention that it was repaired yesterday, so congratulations on being the testing truck for the new repairs. But now, my friends, we have reached some red clay pits. Now, the red clay pits are very important for various animals out here on the Savannah, because the red clay that they have here is very rich in minerals. You can see on the right where some elephants have gouged out chunks of it, and they most likely ate it. Elephants like that one on the left. And some of those minerals are somewhat hard to find in an elephant's normal diet. So they'll eat the clay as a form of mineral supplement, getting some extra minerals if they're lacking some. Now, I mentioned that an elephant's trunk has more muscles in it than your entire body, and this gives them a very high level of dexterity. They'll use it for practically everything, including throwing dirt on themselves. You'll notice that that elephant off to the left there looks a little oddly colored on its back. That's because it's covered itself in dirt to help itself stay cool, as well as give it some pseudo sunscreen. Because of this, they're sometimes known as the Tree of Life. There's a nice elephant on the left there, and there's a baby elephant behind us to the left.
Oh, it's so small.
Looks like she's just having some fun. But now on the left-hand side, I'm seeing some greater flamingos. Now, greater flamingos, like all flamingos, are known for that pink color. But that pink color is not actually the natural color of their feathers. It comes from the brine shrimp that they eat and the beta-carotene it contains. Now, that beta-carotene is a pigment similar to the pigment that turns carrots orange, except this one's pink. Now, it takes about 2 years for that pigment to filter into the feathers and turn them pink, so if you see any out there that are not pink, that's probably because they're less than 2 years old. Now, when gathered in a group like that, flamingos have a fun group name. We've already seen a couple of animals with fun group names. We've seen a bloat of hippos, a tower of giraffes, and a dazzle of zebras. And now you can say you've seen a flamboyance of flamingos. But now, my friends, we've reached my favorite part of the safari, because coming up on the left-hand side, there is a pit of mud. No, I'm joking. The pit of mud is very interesting, though. It's known as a mud wallow, and we're going to have to stop here for a moment because there are rhinos crossing the road. Talk about the rhinos in a bit, but they were probably visiting the mud wallow to wallow in the mud. But it helps them stay cool, as well as gives them some sunscreen and insect protection. Now, those are white rhinos on the right-hand side. You can tell because of their exceptionally wide lips. And that wide lip is actually the reason behind their name, at least due to a mistranslation. They were originally named wide rhinos due to that wide lip, but that was in the language of Afrikaans, and when it was getting translated into English, someone made a mistake, because the Afrikaans word for wide sounds a lot like the English word white. So they got a little bit confused, and now we have white rhinos instead of wide rhinos. But now on the left-hand side, I can see a cheetah.
Oh my god.
Now, the cheetah is the fastest land animal on the planet, able to travel at around 60 miles an hour, but only at a full sprint. As you can probably imagine, a full sprint is very tiring, so they have to stop and take a nap after traveling only the length of 3 football fields. I'd still say that's a pretty good distance for a sprint, though. Now, part of the reason they can get to such high speed, there's a couple more in the bushes on the left here, is because their claws will not retract fully like they would on most cats. Instead, those claws stick out just a little bit, giving them a bunch of extra traction as they run by digging into the ground, similar to an athlete wearing cleats. Now in front of us are some Kobe rocks. The Kobe rocks are a natural rock formation that many animals will use as either a source of shade to take cover from the sun, as they are rather tall and cast very long shadows, or they'll use them as a lookout point by climbing on top of them to get a better view of their surroundings. Now, those are both a male and female lion up there. The male is the one with that impressive mane around his neck. Lions are nocturnal and will sleep 16 to 20 hours every single day. And it's actually the female lions who do most of the hunting. The male's primary job is to keep everyone safe from outside invaders, be it other lions or other animals entirely. Now, a group of lions is known as a pride. And you may have noticed that the white rhinos we saw earlier were in a group. There were 2 of them, and I'm seeing quite a bit more in front of us right now. Now, a group of white rhinos is known as a crash, and this is because they are far more social than those black rhinos we saw earlier, and I think these same 2 rhinos are going to cross the road in front of us again. Now you get a good look at those wide lips of theirs. Now they can actually run at 35 miles an hour should they wish to, but this one wants to go 0 at the moment. And when running at 35 miles an hour, they actually gallop like a horse would. Now we're going to have to sit here for a moment and wait for these rhinos to move out of the way. Now if you look behind us to the left, I didn't notice them before, but there's a little cuddle puddle of warthogs back there. Now we're about to enter Moti Glenn. Now Moti Glenn is home to my favorite warden post 20. Now it's not my favorite warden post because of the view, although the view is rather nice, but rather because it's a lot less lonely than the other warden posts. Most of the other warden posts leave you with not a lot to do, because you only see animals occasionally, and, well, you don't need your help very often. But here there's goats. Nigerian dwarf goats. Now, these Nigerian dwarf goats are rather small for a goat species, but these ones here are fully grown, and I love them because they're very cute. But farmers in Africa actually love them for a very different reason. They actually produce a very sweet-tasting milk, which is incredibly profitable. When you combine that with the fact that they don't require much space to take care of, it's very profitable for farmers to stop growing crops on a little piece of land and instead raise goats there. They just end up making more money. Now as we make our way back towards Harambe village, I want to talk a little bit more about farmers, specifically their relationships with elephants. As it turns out, those relationships were pretty terrible because elephants are very large and have a tendency to ignore fences by going right through them. So this led to some trampled crops and angry farmers who were looking for solutions. Unfortunately, the solutions they were finding were not very healthy for elephants, so they needed to find some new ones. And eventually, some scientists did some research and discovered that elephants have a unique warning call that they will only use in the presence of bees. As it turns out, elephants are just absolutely terrified of bees, and I don't blame them because bees are very scary. But because of this, those farmers were able to integrate beehives into their fences to keep the elephants out. These beehive fences have been incredibly successful and have kept the crops safe from the elephants and the elephants safe from the humans. But on top of that, those farmers are now able to make a little bit more money by selling honey. This boost in their income has actually helped boost nearby economies, and because of that, the rates of poaching have actually gone down. So I'd say that's a very successful program all around. Now for my wilderness explorers, you have been riding Simba 1, and unfortunately it is almost time to say goodbye. But I don't want to, because we had a fun time today. So let's say Kwaherini instead. It's Swahili for go well. So Kwaharini everybody, go well, go wild, go have a wonderful day. My name is Jacob and I want to thank you for riding Kilimanjaro Safaris with me. Alright my friends, please watch your hands, arms, feet, and legs. The doors to your right will be opening momentarily. Watch your step as you exit. There's a bit of a drop. Have a wonderful day everybody. Kwaharini.